They are well-kept secrets, the cities of the Balkans. It's time for a voyage of discovery into the heart of Europe. Sofia lies at the foot of the Vitosha Mountains. An array of historical monuments is a reminder of its long and varied history. 30 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Bulgaria's capital city is an up-and-coming urban hub, a new home for international corporations and startups. Sofia is considered as Europe's Silicon Valley. A green city with over 1 million inhabitants, it cultivates tolerance and its traditions. Here, the world's 3 main religions exist peacefully side by side. Sofia, a city in transition between its past and its future. One of the 4 tram depots lies in the Banya quarter in the northeast of the city. It's 6 a.m. and Aibena Asparukova is starting her shift. She's been driving trams for 30 years. Aibena is just one of 170 women in charge of a tram. In Sofia, most of the drivers are female. Every day starts with the sanitation and security check of the carriages. Only then does she head off towards the city centre. Sofia and its trams are unique in Bulgaria. The eye-catching carriages with their striking colours are all different. They are used carriages that have been passed on from countries in Western Europe over the past decades. As there was no money for a new lick of paint, they were kept as they were. What some would consider a fault lends the city its colourful charm. Albina is driving the green model that once chugged through the streets of Zurich and was fondly called the cucumber.
Now I'm mainly driving Route 11, but I like 12 more. It goes through the city centre and is more diverse. There is always a lot going on this route, lots of people, which can be tiring. But I also like it, because there is always something to see. I'm always impressed by something.
Sofia is the political, economic, and cultural center of Bulgaria. Every 7th Bulgarian lives in the capital city, which has over 1 million inhabitants. The diverse architectural styles of bygone eras are a testament to the country's varied 5,000-year-old history. Whilst the city centre boasts magnificent renovated buildings, not far away, one of the oldest parts of town is falling into decay. Most of the houses have fallen into disrepair. The former Jewish district, known locally as Kvartal, the quarter, is not even a shadow of its former self. After the collapse of the Eastern Bloc and the political upheaval in the 1990s, flats could be privately owned again, but the buildings themselves interested no one. Only a few houses stand out from the uniform shabby grey. Low rent and a laid-back atmosphere draws artists and creatives to the dilapidated quarter. Galleries, studios and workshops are popping up. Slowly, Kvartal is going from an insider's secret to the hip place to be. Nadezhda Georgieva was one of the first artists to move here 3 years ago. She has a screen printing studio.
For a long time, people were saying that the area around the Lion Bridge is one of the most dangerous in the city, with dangerous immigrants carrying knives. If you go there, you'll be stabbed and such. Of course that's not true. This area isn't dangerous at all. It is colourful and filled with contrast. So many different things are happening at the same time.
That is also attracting investors. But rather than renovating the buildings, they leave them to decay. So demolition and cheaper new builds become the only option. The architect Kristina Kamenova lives in Kvartal. She's keeping abreast of the building developments in the area and has mixed feelings. She's campaigning with other local artists and designers to try and preserve the old buildings. They meet in the Soho, a co-working and event space that has become the center for the Kvartal movement. Its cultural and social programs have given the area a better reputation.
The area is beautiful, and there are wonderful small things happening that can get bigger. But for that to happen, we have to realize the creative potential of this area more. We tell people, look, all the beauty here. With a little effort, you can make something great out of it. And there are people here who will help you.
Once a year in September, the Kvartal Collective organizes a street party. This autumn, they will be celebrating it for the 4th time.
This year's theme is architectural and cultural heritage. Yes, but it needs to sound sexier and cooler to attract everyone, not just insiders and specialists. The idea is for the artists to engage with topics and ideas that are useful and important for Kvartal. The concept must have specific points. It needs an additional concept to the main theme and should reflect what goes on in these streets. The artists that live here need to play a role. It's important for these residents to realize that there is someone here who cares about the area improving. Then they might start to care about this place themselves, so things get better and nicer.
The collective regularly organizes events, city tours and parties. It's mainly thanks to the group's creative energy that the Kvartal is establishing itself as a creative quarter.
I found my voice with a pencil. I scribble and fiction and dabble in fact. God, my feelings are cool and tight.
It was the warm mineral springs that already drew the Romans and other civilizations to the plateau thousands of years ago. This distinctive building housed the main mineral baths of the city until 1988. Today, it's a museum. Only the public fountains are a reminder of the plentiful thermal and mineral springs surrounding the city. Many locals swear by the healing property of the water and use it at home. The city's architectural heritage is not under threat everywhere. The large buildings in the center are newly renovated. Despite the different architectural influences, it is the Viennese architects that made the biggest impact on the city. The first ones came at the turn of the 20th century. Inspired by them, the local architects created their own national Bulgarian Art Nouveau style that's still seen in many buildings today. The worn yellow cobblestones stem from the Habsburg monarchy. They've been decorating the streets around Parliament Square for over 100 years. But the stones are sensitive, slippery when wet, and not suitable for today's traffic. Yet no politician nor regime has as yet dared to remove them. From here, the Iron Tsar has a great view of his church, the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. It was built at the end of the 19th century out of gratitude for the liberation of 500 years of Ottoman rule and commemorates the Russian ruler and the soldiers who died fighting in the war for freedom. It is Sofia's landmark. Its shiny golden dome can be seen from far away. Since 1985, Maria Sabova has been the bell ringer at the largest house of worship in Bulgaria. The tower is the place of work for the 89-year-old. She's here every Saturday and Sunday, as well as on religious holidays. She sets off half an hour before Mass begins and takes the 200 steps in one go without losing her breath.
I cannot explain how happy I feel when I climb the steps to the tower. It's exciting every time. When I'm up here and I ring the bell, I am overcome by supernatural energy. Surely it's God's energy. I am quite old after all. Most of my friends have crutches.
Maria is the only one who still uses the bells to play a melody. It's 20 minutes long and demands her full concentration. For special events, she can even play for up to 3 hours.
These wonderful bells have been inspiring people for over 100 years. When I ring them, I think of the Christians that lost their faith during the 50 godless years. And I want to invite them back to church.
Not even the end of the communist regime has been able to change the fact that only half of Bulgaria now considers itself religious. Yet, the country is known for its religious diversity. The openness to different religions can best be seen in the Square of Tolerance. Only a few meters away, almost next door, stands the Russian Orthodox Cathedral, Sveta Nedelya. The Banya Bashi Mosque the Catholic Church of the Holy Joseph, and the Sephardic Synagogue. Only a few men regularly come to the synagogue for Friday prayer. In the past years, the Jewish community has shrunk rapidly, even though Bulgaria is the only country in Europe that had more Jews living in it during Nazi times than before World War I. Their fellow citizens protected them during the Nazi persecution.
אשרי יושבי ביתך אות יבוכסל, אשרי העם שירכך לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוה תהילה לדוד תרומך אלוהי. מלך חיי העולמים. אמן.
Leon Benatov was 5 years old when the war broke out. Not only did the largest synagogue of the Balkans survive unscathed, but 48,000 Bulgarian Jews were also saved, even though the country was one of Hitler's allies. During his tours through the synagogue, Leon talks about how the liberal politicians, the clergy and the general public refused the deportation commands of the Nazi regime, as did the ruling monarch. The Bulgarian King Boris III was not anti-Semitic. He resisted enormous pressure from the Germans to deport the Jews to the camps. He stalled them, which is why he even got the nickname the Fox. There were many restrictions and countless persecutions, but not one Bulgarian Jew was transported to the death camps. The Vitosha Mountains tower to the south of the city gates. The enormous mountain silhouette dominates the cityscape, and can be seen from almost every point. They are just a short trip from the center and a popular destination for day trips. Maria Boyanova is the junior champion in cross-country mountain bike racing. From her flat, it takes her less than half an hour to reach the mountains, where she likes to train. The forest is thick with century-old oak trees, firs and beeches. The stone riverbeds and opulent flora and fauna have been under protection for a long time. Mountain bike races have been held here for 15 years. Different routes were laid down, and Maria rides them several days a week, again and again.
For me, Vitosha is a very good place. There are so many training possibilities. The beginner routes are very easy and good for building your skills, but also to ride during the regeneration phase, after the competitions. Vitosha is great for people like me that can train outdoors. It's close by and you have a spectacular view. I often come here after school during the week, just to relax. Then I'm fit for the next day. Sofia is a great city to live in, and I will miss it when I go abroad to study soon. But I think I will love this place and this mountain even more when I return.
Bulgaria became a member state of the European Union in 2007. At the beginning of 2018, the country took over the Council presidency for 6 months for the first time. The National Palace of Culture is the largest conference center in southeastern Europe and hosted the ministerial meetings and the council meetings of heads of state during this period. After more than a decade in the EU, its poorest member is still under observation due to its weak social justice record and continuous corruption scandals. Even though the quality of life, at least in the large cities, has improved, many do not have enough to make ends meet. The minimum wage is a little above €1.40 an hour. The average monthly income is around €400. The women's market is in the center of town. It's not only its low prices that make it so popular. All social classes come together at the Zhensky Pasar. This is where the heart of the city beats. The potter, Georgy Vladimirov, sells his wares here. The traditional ceramics are not only available in the usual brown shades, but also different colors and new patterns. The market is very important to farmers and traders like him. Zhensky Pasar has been around for a very long time. It provided my great-grandfather's income. It's grown and grown. As Sofia grew, so did the market. And what is on offer? In the park in front of the National Theatre, people gather for a chat or to relax after work. And on Sunday afternoons, to dance. At 5 o'clock on the dot, Bulgarian folk music booms from the speakers. Everyone can join in, irrespective of age and ability. Petya Petkova is a structural engineer. During the week, she's in charge of the renovation of large buildings. In her free time, she dances. Sundays, she can almost always be found in front of the National Theatre.
I have always gotten goosebumps from our folk music and our art. It touches my soul. I think we all just want to enjoy it here and have fun. Recharge our batteries and energy by dancing.
Quickly learn the steps and just join in. The dancing happens in the summer and the winter months, in any weather, and well into the early hours if the mood is right. Between the Danube and the Aegean Sea, the Black Sea and the Adriatic, there is a place where every civilization has left their mark. Thracians, Slavs, Byzantines, Ottomans, even the Romans. The Holy Sofia towers over Independence Square. She is the city's patron saint. To her feet, only a few meters underground, are the remains of the Roman Serdica settlement from the 5th and 6th century. It was excavated when the metro system was built in 2011. This is only a fraction of the treasures lying underneath the streets of Sofia. The archaeologist Veselka Katsarova is in charge of the Serdica site. Together with colleagues, she is preparing the next area to excavate, right by the Sveta Nedelya church.
This cellar wall is still standing proudly upright, and I don't understand why it doesn't collapse. Perhaps because of this large stone.
These remains of the wall must have belonged to a larger complex. Further studies are to shed some light on exactly what it was.
This wall is very damaged. The third winter was no good for it. I don't think it will survive another winter if it is not restored. A large pipe. It's also broken.
That's how it is.
1, 2, 3, 4.
4 fingers. This is from the other hand.
I keep asking myself why there is only one wall here. Do you have an explanation? This opening is for warm air. In Roman times, underfloor heating was the most common type of heating.
The excavation may be lacking funds, but it is not lacking artifacts. The wealth of the ancient remains will provide material for generations of archaeologists. One could think that Sofia is her El Dorado.
It's not that rosy for us here. Telling private investors that they have to pay for the archaeological exploration of the area is not always pleasant. It's compulsory and most don't factor in the cost. When they find out they have to pay for it, they just leave everything, which is why there are so many undeveloped areas around here in the city centre.
An expert team from the Archaeological Museum is examining and restoring the artifacts. One surprising find were 3,000 Roman coins. They have not yet all been cleaned and preserved, as restoring them is painstaking work that demands finely tuned skill. An even better kept secret than Sofia's historic past is that it's known as Europe's Silicon Valley. In the glass skyscrapers, there are startups and the offices of international tech giants such as Microsoft, IBM, HP, and SAP. Many global companies have been active in Bulgaria for a few years. On offer are highly qualified specialists in information technology, fast internet connections, and founder-friendly conditions. The IT industry is booming. This is preventing many Bulgarians from leaving their country. Others are even coming back. Peruna Keremicheva is a programmer, although she studied Bulgarian philology. Advanced mathematics at school and some programming courses enabled her to get into the IT market. She's been working for a small startup venture in the center of town for 3 years. Like other young IT specialists, she regards international corporations outsourcing their work here critically.
At the moment, Bulgaria offers a cheap workforce, a lot of qualified but cheap labour, like in India. At least Bulgaria is in the EU, and so I think our wages and living standards should match those in the other countries in Europe. We're designing the site for the co-working space that will be running in Sinamoritz by the sea. It has to look cool. It has to have a lot of sub-pages and be original. We'll do it.
The Bulgarian IT specialists tend to be well-educated and ambitious. The big corporations snatch the best ones up right after leaving university. Those setting up their own businesses mainly use co-working spaces like this one.
I think that people are hungry to learn, especially if you come from a small country. It makes you ambitious. You want to forge a path and be the best so you have a chance on the global market. Good education has always been important in Bulgaria. It has a tradition, and I think that explains a lot.
The large Soviet Army monument is a reminder of the 9th of September 1944, the day on which the Red Army freed Bulgaria or occupied Bulgaria, depending on your point of view. The young people who gather here today know very little about life under communist rule or the Treaty of Friendship in the Eastern Bloc. In 1993, the City Council decided to remove the monument, but nothing happened. No one acted on the decision, although other statues commemorating socialism disappeared from the city. However, unlike elsewhere, the removed statues were not destroyed, but placed in a new home, the Museum of Socialist Art. At the entrance, the red star that emblazoned Sofia's Communist Party headquarters until 1990. Yoni Penkov is 87 years old and has seen many political regimes come and go. He comes here often. Lenin, Stalin, Dimitrov. The park is a collection of the greatest minds and leaders of socialism, all larger than life. These ideologists and thinkers have molded his life for a long time.
I need to go into the shade and intentionally chose Lenin. Standing in his shadow is something special, a safe place. Many people have spent their lives in Lenin's shadow and thought it was good. What we see here is a general social realism. You had to stick to it, as the government was very involved with the art. There is one rule: when the government interferes with art, art suffers, which is why many artists did not have a very good time here.
Today, many artists use their work to express themselves against the current power structures, especially the members of the artists group Destructive Creation. They work anonymously, so need to wear masks. They want their art to stand for itself and are against individual ownership.
We always choose a social topic for our art, either one that's being ignored or that's topical. Our work is not there to judge or present an opinion. It's not about saying that something is good or bad. We just want to draw attention to it. We have to check if the two parts fit onto each other.
Violence against women is their current topic. The sculpture is a symbiosis of the Venus symbol and a modified pillory.
Domestic violence is a very topical issue here. Every fourth woman has fallen victim to it. You can see on the streets how car drivers honk at young girls that are still at school. You can just imagine what goes on behind closed doors. It's a big problem here.
As the work should be seen by as many people as possible, the collective uses busy locations. They've chosen the university subway entrance for the Cross of Venus. It takes a while for the first passers-by to react. The book market and Slaveykov Square appeared after the fall of communism, when most national bookshops were closed down. In the early 90s, it was the only place where one could buy printed material. It's still popular today, especially with those who can afford new books. So far, only a few have profited from the economic upswing in the country. On a European scale, the gap between rich and poor is most extreme in Bulgaria. Since he was born, Yoni Penkov has lived in an upmarket area near the market. In that time, a lot has changed. Yoni observes all the changes in his neighborhood with interest. Since his retirement, the sound engineer has been making his own documentary films, especially about the area and its people.
There's always something happening around the bins. At the moment, people are trying to find things in them, food or other useful stuff. That's the situation at the moment. It will pass, which is why I've decided to document it.
Yoni's current film is his most structured so far. He only shoots the footage from his window. For a year, he has been pointing the camera at the rubbish bins in front of his flat. He has over 40 hours of footage and has witnessed moving, sad, and also joyful goings-on. The life next to and from the rubbish bins, a snapshot of society in Sofia.
On the one hand, Sofia is improving. A lot of things are better than they were. On the other hand, we are losing a lot of what we had. It was more peaceful, not so hectic, and young people were content with less. Nowadays, a little is not enough, so we have to work a lot to attain this high standard of life.
In the Geo Milev, in the east of Sofia, these are not noticeable problems. It's a more peaceful neighborhood that is attracting young families with children. Nadezhda and Stefan Grigorov live here. In 2014, the couple opened an organic bakery in a house right by the park. The shop is also a community space. The cultural anthropologist has found a new way to bring people together again.
Bread is very important for Bulgarians. When we have a guest, no matter if it is the president or a neighbor, we receive them with bread and salt. For us, it's a symbol. The salt stands for the more difficult moments in which we need to help each other. The bread for the happy moments like christenings, weddings and funerals. From birth until death, bread is always present in our culture.
The neighborhood comes together in the bakery once a month. There is a theme at every gathering. Today, it's springtime. The theme is not just to guide the conversation, but also communal action. They draw what spring means to them in the flower.
The best thing in spring was my football team winning 2-0.
I have started with a smiling man and 2 children holding hands. That's a symbol for love. Let's start. Push the flower forward to the middle. Everyone here. Lyubov, push the flower here.
Okay. Да не ти е много жега, че наистина добре, че се сеща здраво да те питаш, защото ако нещо вземе да те хваща сърцето, казвай. Така.
The neighborhood bake is just one of Nadezhda's bread projects. She developed the concept of the bread houses whilst writing her thesis. She founded the first one in 2009 in a village near Sofia. Now, there are 20 such bread communities across 5 continents. They all have a common goal: to change the world through baking and encourage peace and understanding.
We bring very different types of people together to bake bread. We have noticed that friendships also form between old and young, rich and poor, people with different handicaps, physical and mental. Everyone loves to bake bread, and so we have developed creative methods. We perform, we make music, drawings and sculptures from dough. It's more like art therapy. I think that bread unites and reconciles people in a wonderful way.
Albina has made 11 journeys along Route 12 today, from the northern suburbs to the centre and back, almost 100 kilometres in 7 hours. A daily sightseeing tour with the best views.
Sofia is a very happy city because it has green public transport. Trams do not pollute the air and still transport a lot of people.
The Bulgarian metropolis suffers from high air pollution, so environmentally friendly transport like trams are very important. Equally crucial, green spaces. Trees are being planted along most of the side streets. They don't just filter the air, but add a romantic touch to the city in spring and summer. Especially during the humid nights, the parks are a second living room to many in the city. In the summer, life in Sofia plays out outside. The Swing Society moves its dance events to one of the city's squares when the weather is good. A trial class is even free. It's not only fashion boutiques that adorn the Vitosha Boulevard. The restaurants and bars are where the evening usually starts, before moving on to one of the hip clubs. Alongside its tradition and culture, Sofia's party scene is also thriving. An underrated metropolis that's worth a second look. A city that is worth discovering.